Welcome to the UFC 273 post show here on Combat Center, the official Five Reasons Sports channel, new combat sports channel. So make sure you guys like and subscribe. And we're here to cover UFC 273, where we just saw Alexander Volkanovski dominate, retain his title. We saw Aljamain Sterling clear all doubt. He was able to take the back of Petr Yan, and we saw an all-out war between the up-and-coming Khamzat Chimaev, Gilbert Burns. We also saw Mackenzie Dern get a split decision victory over Tisha Torres. And we saw Mark Madsen getting a victory at the beginning of the card as well. So let me kick you to my co-host for tonight, Mr. Bruce Neal. Give me your thoughts overall on the entire card.
Oh man, it was a great card as expected. And as expected always in the MMA world, they throw at you some twists and some unexpected things. So it was a good night.
Absolutely a good night, man. I went 4-1 on the picks. The only one I did not win was Aljamain Sterling, but when he came out to Pepas, I mean, as a Miami Heat fan, it was tough for me to pick against him. I even said on Twitter, man, after he came out to that song, I might just have to change my pick. And he convinced me, man. He was able to take the back of Petr Yan. I think that was probably the most surprising thing of the night. It was just the ability of him to take him down and actually stay on the back for such a long time. But we saw amazing performances all throughout tonight. So let's start right at the top, man. Alexander Volkanovski retaining his title, I think, in the fourth round against the Korean Zombie with a technical knockout, which I thought it was a perfect stoppage by Herb Dean. And I think it was just a world-class performance by Alexander Volkanovski. The check left hooks were beautiful. The inside calf kicks were beautiful. He started off with the jab. He was very patient. There was multiple times that he had the Korean Zombie rocked, but he took his time, and that was the best part about it. He showed the championship mindset tonight. He was able to mix it up beautifully, put the Korean Zombie on his back at times, and he was able to get some good ground and pound as well. And some of those shots he landed absolutely beautiful. He landed flush, a beautiful 3-2 combination. So, man, let me know, what did you see tonight from the champion, Alexander Volkanovski?
Man, tonight, Alexander just showed that he is the champ. He also showed that he means it when he says that he wants to climb the pound for pound rankings. And when you can put on a dominant performance like this against a very good veteran like Zombie, somebody who's fought for the belt before, somebody who's been at the top for a long time, who had a lot of great fights, great wins, it says that that Volkanovski is the real deal, as we already knew he was. And I think it was just obvious from the beginning. His power was just too much for the Zombie. Zombie's been hit before. We know that. That's why he's called the Zombie, right? He can take a punch, he wakes up, and he still comes at you. And I think he would have fought to the death, to be honest. But I think that was a good stoppage because I think he just would have been hit way more than he would have needed to. I think Volkanovski was just clearly just too dominant, and like Zombie said at the end, he hit a wall, and that wall was Volkanovski.
Yeah, that was the best way to put it, man. I want to give a shout out to some people in the comments joining us before we even started. Makani, those fights were absolutely insane. Dominic Severinos, I'm convinced Khamzat is the real deal, but I'm even more convinced that he's not touching Usman. That's a very interesting perspective. I think we saw a lot more human of a side of Khamzat Chimaev tonight. Baby Rage saying, "Yo, what's good? What's going on, my man?" Makani saying, "Aljo surprised me a lot with that dominance in that second and third round." I 100% agree, man. I think those were just the two killer rounds by him, and it was just instrumental for him getting that victory. And I think that first round too, right? Although he was on his back foot in that first round, he was able to make sure that he landed some really good body kicks, some good low kicks. He was doing good work off that back leg. Maybe a life-saving stoppage from Herb. I think it was perfect, man. Give credit where credit's due. He gets a lot of shit sometimes from people when he doesn't give the best stoppages. This was one of the best stoppages I've seen. It was very smart from him. He brought the doctor in early to make sure that he was good, and it was perfect, man. Shout out to Herb Dean. I think that was great. Baby Rage saying Alex Aussie GOAT, man. He's given us a really, really good run right now. I think it's 20 victories in a row. That said, man, um, 20 victories in a row that he has now, and it's to the point where you have to start putting him in that conversation with featherweight all-time greats like Jose Aldo, Max Holloway, Alexander Volkanovski is right there as well. Late night stream, it was good. Fourth quarter saying, who are their little kids with no bass in their voice? Not sure. Michael Stefano saying, hey fellas, Volko repping the Aussies. Are there any other interesting fights outside of the match rematch? That's actually a really good question. So let's get right into it, man. We saw the performance by Volkanovski, man. Outside of the Max Holloway rematch, who do you think would be a really interesting matchup for the champ Alexander Volkanovski?
I think at this point in his career and where he's at right now, if it isn't Max, you just gotta line him up with the next guy that's up there in the top 5 that's available. And you just have to feed people to Volkanovski at this point because it's almost like we know based on who we see. I would have to look at the actual like top 10 to really know. But there's not many I can think of off the top of my head that are going to be able to really challenge him outside of Max. I mean, Calvin Kattar, no, not even Calvin Kattar. You know, the weakness is that Calvin Kattar. Let me see. Actually, let me look at your screen.
I like Arnold Allen. That's like it's
Yeah,
kind of a
so
sleeper choice.
Yeah, so
So
Yair,
Arnold,
no way. I don't think he has what it takes to beat someone like Volkanovski because we've seen Yair get absolutely dominated by Max on the feet, and we also saw him get dominated by Frankie Edgar on the ground. So I just think overall it's just not well rounded enough. Chan Sung Jung, number 4, we just blew through him. Calvin Gator, Gator has weaknesses that Volkanovski actually has as strengths. Honestly, I think the only it's actually 6 and 7 would give him more of a challenge than everybody else outside of Max. 6 and 7 would be the harder challenges just because of the momentum Arnold Allen has. More, I would say Arnold Allen, but it might be too soon. That's kind of bad to do to someone like Arnold Allen. You kind of want to help him build up more, put him against Yair, put him against Calvin Kattar or something. But and I would say Emmett because of his power, his raw power as well. It would be a very interesting fight. I think he'd be the only guy that can somewhat match Volkanovski's power, somewhat. But I just think that Volk has a more well-rounded game and championship mentality, and he's actually a very smart fighter. What I actually had to say is his biggest edge against Emmett and a lot of these guys in general is he's a very smart fighter. He's changing up his game plan for everybody that he's fighting. He's not fighting everyone the same exact way. He came into this fight, boxing heavy, which was the right game plan to do with someone that has somewhat of a suspect chin that's been rocked and hurt before and even knocked out cold before. Especially when you know you have that type of power that Volkanovski's had. It was the right game plan. The little leg kicks, it was perfect. I mean, like Volkanovski is no one should be sleeping on him anymore. He really is a fighter who wants to be the best, who wants to be climbing the pound for pound rankings.
and he's doing it, man. Absolutely dominant performance tonight. You can't really doubt him much more. Want to give a shout out to Brett, the movie guy, with some good knowledge in saying Dana White said he's donated to Mike Malot's coach and told him he's keeping the purse that he was going to donate. If you didn't hear, I think they're battling leukemia, or one of their coach's daughters battling leukemia. So he was going to donate his show money, his $10,000 show money, to to help fund the treatment of that. So shout out to Dana White. That's pretty cool of a move for them. Baby
Yeah,
Ray saying Volk
he
just
did that last
dominated.
time too.
Yeah, man, that's what's up. I think that's an awesome move by Dana White, even though he should still be paying these fighters a little bit more, in my opinion. Justin Galvin saying, especially the biggest hit he'll ever take in the welterweight division, man. He did. He took a lot of shots from Gilbert Burns, and especially a clean one at the end of that second round, which we'll get to a little bit later. But the Korean Zombie thinking about hanging it up now, and I think this is an interesting perspective because as a fighter, if you're not gonna fight for the title, what's the next step for you, right? Are you just going to continue to take damage kind of purposely or purposelessly, or are you going to just wait for those big money fights and continue there? I think for the Korean Zombie, if he wants to hang it up, maybe he has one last fight to kind of go out on top, maybe like a Dan Ige, or no, I think he fought Dan Ige again, but somebody, just that he gets a little bit more respect. Maybe put him up against Jose Aldo, if he wants to just come up for a one-off at 145, make that a little bit of a fun fight. But he has a couple of options, but I think right now he should really consider retirement. He's at the tail end of his career against the top of the top in the featherweight division. He's just not going to line up with those guys. He's just not that good yet, not that good anymore. He showed tonight with the hands down approach, he's not going to be able to beat guys like Alexander Volkanovski. And if he matched up with Max Holloway, wouldn't be able to meet him either. Do you think this is the end of the line for the Korean Zombie, or do you think he should continue to fight?
It's always crazy. It's always weird when you are like telling one's what someone should do, or like, you know what I mean? Like, that's especially if it's their passion. But from speaking from just like a fan perspective, as a fan of Zombie, I like him. I like I saw his whole career since the beginning. Yeah, I think if there's any time to do it, it probably would be now, because I can't see anyone in the top 10 you just showed me that he can actually beat outside of a rematch with Yair, because he was handling Yair before he got caught with that. He was kind of edging a win out against Yair before he got caught with that little creepy little back elbow he did. But I think where does he go from here, really, at this age? I mean, this is it. This was his last chance, So I just don't see why he should stick around. He'll end up just losing, if they put him against the wrong. Calvin Kattar, not a good matchup. A lot of these guys are not good matchups at this stage in his career. So I think hanging it up might be the best bet.
Yeah, I think for him, definitely hanging it up, it will be the best bet for him. It's the end of the line. I think, he shouldn't continue to take more damage. He spoke about in the Brian Ortega fight that he didn't even remember after the spinning back elbow landed the rest of the fight. You don't want this age, the signs of CTE to start kicking in. I think for the Korean Zombie, I think for his health, he should consider definitely, hanging him up, because you don't want to continue to take unnecessary damage, especially if you're not going to fight for the title. Let's get into the co-main event, man. This was a really, really good fight. A lot of people were thinking Petr Yan was going to come out and dominate, but Aljamain Sterling came out with a plan in the first round, a very kick-heavy. Second and third round, able to control Petr Yan for the better half of 3.5 minutes for both rounds, get on his back, fight to get the, rear naked choke. Wasn't able to get the rear naked choke, but he was able to just maintain dominant position. And Petr Yan, being the fighting, monster that he is, coming back and winning the fourth and fifth round. Talk to me about what you saw in this fight, and talk to me about what you thought about the decision, because it was a split decision that ended up going to Aljamain Sterling.
So I think that first off, I was actually surprised that the crowd was pro Peter, or Pieter, however you pronounce it. And they're really, really on Peter's side. They were even chanting Peter, right? So that right there, got my attention. I was like, that's crazy. Now, what I think happened with Peter was that I think he was too wrapped around the whole first fight. I think he was too focused on that. I think that kind of hindered his performance a little bit mentally. It seemed like he was in a rush to get Aljo out of there. And I know he's normally a pressure fighter, but at the speed of his pressure in this fight specifically seemed a little faster. And it also seemed a little sloppier than usual that I would normally see from Peter. So, and I think that's what gave Aljo some of these openings that Aljo always said he just needs an opening. He just needs that moment. People are surprised, but I'm not. Aljo is called the human backpack for a reason, right? He showed that today. He is one of the best on the ground in that division. You saw how fast he choked out Corey Sandhagen. So I'm not really surprised. I thought Peter was going to win, and I thought, based on the decision I saw, that I thought Peter won, because I thought he got the 4th, 5th, and 1st. But the 1st is the questionable round, so I'm actually going to have to rewatch the 1st round just to really get a solid score on that, because I already know the rest of the rounds. Aljo obviously controlled 2 rounds. by taking his back, locking in that body triangle, which is very hard to get out of, especially Aljo specifically, somebody who's really good at it. And it seemed like Peter was just stuck there. He was trying his best. He was being very defensive. You got to give him credit for that. I mean, Aljo's would most people he would choke out in that position, and he had two almost whole rounds to really get him out of there, just to show you how good Peter's choke defense is. His from people taking his back, probably trained it, drilled that thousands of times. So for me personally, I think Peter should have gotten a decision, but I have to rewatch that first round. I think Aljo did what Aljo fought his best fight, his best performance I've ever seen. Like that was the most composed Aljo I've ever seen. Despite getting pressured and punched, pretty good a couple of times by Peter.
Yep, he definitely get punched a couple of times by Peter. We lost Mr. Bruce Neal there for a second. But in the meantime, I want to bring in the co-host of Hitting the Field, Mr. Johan Blanco, bringing him in live, coming in.
But
we just got Bruce back. And
what I saw on Peter was...
I can't hear. I don't think I can hear anything. Oh, my God.
Peter still looked really good.
It's 2:22
a.m.,
baby.
I just saw a little bit of a difference.
We are going off the rails.
In the usual Peter. And I think because I think honestly, I think Aljo got his head a little bit. I think Peter was annoyed. I don't think.
All right, we lost Bruce Neal for a little bit there. I'm just going to go ahead and take over for a little bit. Yeah, so Aljamain Sterling tonight was just a lot more dominant in his performance. He was able to, like Michael Sedefano said, he was able to get some validation. And it was good for him because, for everybody that was talking a lot of crap about him, especially coming in with a neck injury in his last fight, taking so long out with the surgery, with the way the last fight ended, it was very, very different. Gonna bring back on Bruce Neal. I think he is a little bit better now. Maybe not. Can't really see him. Bruce, are you there? And we don't have Bruce. Bruce is gone again. So we're taking off Bruce for a little bit. It is 2:23 in the morning, guys. We are a little bit off the rails with some technical difficulties from the guys, but no big deal. PR Crazy saying, yo, how y'all doing tonight? Hope y'all doing good. Hope you're doing well. As Mel, my man. But Aljamain Sterling, dominant performance. Petr Yan, I think it was Bilal Muhammad that said it on this actual stream when it came up on the on the screen when they're bringing up the tweets that Aljamain Sterling fought really smart versus Petr Yan fought really, really, angry. And he was trying to come in really angry. And let's try to bring on Johan Blanco again. Can you hear us this time?
Yes, I can.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yes,
so give me your thoughts, man, on the co-main event. Or just give me your thoughts on the, just give me your quick thoughts on the main event. Not Aljamain Sterling, Alexander Volkanovski defeating Korean Zombie. And then go ahead and give me your thoughts on the co-main event.
Yeah, so but that fight was pretty much, I mean, if you haven't already said it already, it was pretty much a one-man show. I mean, it was pretty much a domination from Alexander Volkanovski throughout that fight. I mean, he pretty much picked him apart, and he kind of, I don't know if you guys said it in the pre-show or not, but he kind of picked apart the flat-footed stance of Korean Zombie. I mean, Korean Zombie is very slow and he's very flat-footed, and also he has a very slow reaction time. And it seemed like Alexander Volkanovski was like 4 steps ahead of Korean Zombie's 1 step. Every time Korean Zombie was trying to load up, Alexander Volkanovski would counter him. And not only would he counter him, he knew that Korean Zombie was slow to react, so he would follow up with either a cross or a hook or anything. He would follow up with 2 or 3 more punches because he knew he could land them at an accurate rate. And that was just the whole fight, like as a whole. Like the whole game plan of the fight was just to kind of pick apart Korean Zombie, and you kind of saw it, like he kind of almost broke Korean Zombie's will, which is sad because He's one of those fan favorites that everyone loves Korean Zombie. But Alexander Volkanovski is he just showed he was like a class above him, and it was probably his best performance to date. But it's kind of bittersweet, even though Volkanovski is my favorite UFC fighter. I think that we all can agree that Korean Zombie is a big fan favorite, and we wanted him to at least show some life in this fight. And at the end of it, we really wanted the fight to be stopped because it was like he wasn't showing anything.
Now, as far as the co-main event, what were your thoughts on the co-main event with Aljamain Sterling? Because it was a split decision, and I thought personally it shouldn't have been a split decision. I thought it was pretty clear that even though he was fighting off his back leg, that Aljamain won round one. What were your thoughts on that? And did you think that rounds 2 or rounds 3 should have been a 10-8?
No, so I mean, the way it depends. I also think it depends on what state athletic commission they're with, whether it's a 10-8. But I agree that Aljamain won round 1 just because, I mean, he was fighting off his back foot, but he was the more active fighter. And also it was one of those rounds where Piotr was like kind of still trying to read Aljamain. The only problem is he didn't anticipate Aljamain to be that successful on his wrestling rounds 2 and 3, and also to take his back for the majority of the round. And I think it's not only the fact that he took his back for the majority of the round, where you can call it a 10-8, but he was actively trying to get a finish. He was actively working towards a better position off his back. And not only that, but like towards the end of the second round, it looked like Piotr was like in deep trouble. He looked like Aljamain was going to sink in a rear naked choke. I mean, because he kept turning, and then like he would turn on his stomach, and then he would flatten, and that was like a complete red flag. I was like, that's not good, because it looked like Aljamain, when he was on Piotr's back, he was just in his territory. He got more composed and everything like that, and then when he was on his feet, he was frantic as hell. But I think Aljamain took round 1. It wasn't impressive, but neither was Petr Yan in round 1. So I think the first 3 rounds were Aljamain's, and decisively in the 4th and 5th were Piotr. So I think the decision was right, honestly.
Yeah, I was right there with you. Bruce, we lost you a little bit on your thoughts between Aljamain Sterling and Petr Yan. What were your thoughts on the fight overall? We were kind of having you a little bit in and out. You texted me, you felt Yan won. Obviously, sometimes watching the fight live, it's a little bit harder to kind of read it and gauge it and take some notes at the same time. Talk to me about what you really thought towards the end of the fight.
First off, can you hear me good?
Much better.
Okay, awesome. All right, man. I don't know what happened there. It might have been like a UFO above my house or something like that. I'm not sure. Something happened. But look, I think the first round is what really confuses me, and because I'm more focused on obviously the more recent rounds, I would have to rewatch that fight to fully assess it properly. But from what I felt and saw, I thought it was 3 rounds to 2 for Petr, but I think that first round is questionable. So I think it really does seem like both fighters got a good chance at implementing their plan and being themselves and using their strengths. And I just think it really comes down to that first round to know who really won. I'm not upset either way, to be honest. I actually think this was the best version of Alja that we've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, when you take down a guy that's seemingly been impossible to take down, the way he's been able to get up, just want to take a look at some of the stats from that first round. Looking at it right now, 19 of 40 for Aljamain Sterling on the strikes compared to 13 of 26. And obviously, the numbers don't tell everything as far as the impact goes, but we know Petr Yan takes the time to download that information in that first round, and he kind of does give it away. And that's what ended up being his downfall tonight, is he gave it away. And then when he was going to start to turn it up in rounds 2 and 3, he just got taken down. And when he really needed to start turning it up rounds 4 and 5, where he should have, in my opinion, chased the finish, he hurt us. He started to turn the tides a little bit in round 4. I felt like he punched Aljamain in kind of the eye, and he was able to get some good punches. Aljamain was reacting a little bad. but he wasn't really capitalizing on anything. He kind of took him down, settled on just kind of grabbing him from behind. A guy that's really good on submissions like Aljamain Sterling isn't just going to get rear naked choked by somebody like Petr Yan. So in my opinion, it was just a really uncalled for, in my opinion, because you want to go for the finish, in my opinion. So interesting decision there. But now the next fight, Aljamain Sterling called out TJ Dillashaw in the crowd, man. Johan, I see you smiling on this one. Give me a quick little preview of how you think that fight goes down with the new Aljamain Sterling that we saw tonight.
He's beating TJ Dillashaw. I think so. I think that, don't get me wrong, I think TJ Dillashaw is still pretty good. But I think that even though Aljo had troubles with Petr Yan, anybody would have troubles with Petr Yan in 135. Aljo, I think, will out-grapple TJ Dillashaw right now. And I think that if we're going based off their last performances, I don't think TJ looked that impressive against Corey Sandhagen. I honestly think he lost that fight against Corey Sandhagen. And Aljo beat Corey Sandhagen. He actually submitted him. And I think that he could do the same to TJ. I think it would be an interesting fight, and it could be a 50-50 fight. But I think that Aljo's reaching the prime of his career, whereas we're starting to see TJ reach kind of like the end of that prime. And it's an interesting matchup, but I think that Aljamain Sterling will come up on top in that matchup.
Bruce, what are your thoughts on it?
I like that assessment because based on where they are in their careers right now is the only reason why I would lean towards Aljo getting a victory there. But but we just only saw one fight from TJ since being back, so we don't know if TJ's still TJ, right? Killashaw, right? If he's Killashaw, the original TJ that destroyed Cody Garbrandt, that beat all those guys that handled John Lineker, all these if it's that TJ, that super well rounded killer instinct TJ, then that guy should be able to beat Aljo because he's good enough. See, the thing about TJ is he was always well rounded, a well-rounded fighter, very good ground game, very good control with his wrestling base, but he was also a very elusive striker, so he was able to set up his strikes very well, training with Dwayne and over there and with the whole Bang Muay Thai thing, and they have a great system. And TJ is just has he's very big at competitive drive. So it depends on what TJ we see, to be honest. If we see the same TJ that fought Cody Sandhagen, the one that looks like he's on a decline, Aljo's going to squeeze out that victory somehow, maybe even submit him. You never really know when someone's on that decline against someone that's on an incline. So my thoughts are, based on what I've seen, I would lean towards Aljo. But if we see Killashaw, yeah, TJ should take that.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's really two paths of thinking how this fight can go, right? You can think that, hey, TJ Dillashaw came back against Corey Sandhagen. He came back with a little bit of ring rust, and now he's going to be able to kind of shake off that ring rust. And like Bruce said, he had an excellent ground game. He was able to play with some top position with some of his fights, and he was able to kind of use his movement to kind of help him get further and kind of be elusive. But the other school of thought is he's 36 years old. This fight probably isn't going to go down till the end of the year. It's going to be a little bit over, maybe 12 to 14 months between fights for him. And he's only going to be that much older. Now, when you look at the way that the UFC is in the heavier weight divisions, older fighters can hang around because power continues to stay. But when you're in those lighter weight classes, when they're more focused on movement, when speed is more a factor, you see that guys start to leave their prime quicker because speed leaves a lot quicker than power. So what we might see is TJ Dillashaw slowing down just a little bit more. Like you said, as Aljamain Sterling is continuing to hit his prime, continuing to work with this new neck. And like you said, maybe be able to take him down. And I think that's probably what we see. I think TJ might slow down a little bit more. I think he might have some moments, right? He still has power in those hands, but Aljamain Sterling is going to continue to get better. I think he's going to continue to work that striking. That's going to be a big part of how he's going to continue to get better. And if he's able to take TJ Dillashaw down, he might just be able to submit him. But guys, let's get into the
Wait, hold on.
people.
I like how you said new neck. like the new neck feature was
I mean, I saw it. It was like it was
with
a
his
lot
new
of
neck.
fights.
TJ, I mean, he's a threat. He's a threat with his new neck.
The new neck plays a big role in it, man. We can't sleep on that new neck. Look what he did round for the first fight versus this fight, and you want to tell me that the new neck was not a factor?
Bro, did you not see? It was like
Did you not see it in action?
He got
The
better
takedowns
head
were
movement now.
absolutely there. The new neck was
bionic neck.
the bionic neck of Aljamain Sterling was the key factor for him winning tonight. And if he wins against TJ Dillashaw, I'm telling you, this bionic neck or whatever he did to get this surgery, if it's, titanium dipped plates or is it's, whatever it is, maybe it's made of like, kryptonite or something. So Petr Yan or something could, not get that. But at the end of the day, Aljamain Sterling got the victory. But let's get into the people's main event, man. And Bruce, I'll let you start on this one. We saw Khamzat Chimaev go in war against Gilbert Burns. Now, walking out in this fight, Gilbert Burns looked very stiff. Khamzat looked very, very loose. Now, at the beginning of the fight, that's exactly how it started playing out. Khamzat started attacking him, started getting him on the back foot, and he started landing some really good punches. And it seemed like when he was able to kind of get a little bit more in, he was able to just push him up against the fence, but he wasn't able to take him down the first time. And he was able to get back up. Gilbert Burns was able to get back up, and he was able to land some really good shots over the top, and he started to show a little bit of the cracks in the shield of Khamzat Chimaev, right? He was the first person to actually make Khamzat look like a human being. Like, that's the first time we've seen him actually look like a human being, and Burns put him in danger. In the second round, we saw him hit him with a beautiful right hand that, like Joe Rogan beautifully describes, makes his chin touch his shoulder. And anytime that happens, that's not a good thing. But hey, we have to give credit too, because Khamzat Chimaev talks about coming there with a big gas tank. If you don't have a good gas tank and you don't have good stamina, those shots were going to be the shots that'll knock you out. But he was able to withstand that shot and go into the third round. He was able to win that third round, weather the storm. But mad props to Gilbert Burns, because he was able to weather the storm and get through the tornado and the wolf that is Khamzat Chimaev. But man, what a phenomenal fight. What a performance by both guys. I think this is one of those fights that, like, both of these guys' stocks are going to rise a little bit. Burns kind of got the Chimaev rub in a way, because Burns wasn't, is a household name, but not so much as hyped up as the hype train as Khamzat Chimaev. So Burns got a little bit of rub. He was showing, man, he's not going to go out. He's not going to take no shit, and he's going to fight anybody. And on the other hand, Khamzat Chimaev showed he's able to go toe-to-toe with some of the best. He's able to take some of the guys' best shots. And next, I think Dana White's already said it, he's got Colby Covington coming up. But before we get to that, man, Bruce, you were talking about this fight for weeks, man. Give me your thoughts on this fight, and what do you think about your performance from your boy, Khamzat Chimaev?
So, first off, I'm going to start with the most important part of any fight. It's the mindset part, the mental part. That is everything. So I pay attention to the interviews, the pre-fight interviews. I pay attention to the body language, all that stuff, right? So I observed Gilbert's body language on the way out, and he looked very nervous, okay? That dude looked nervous when he was coming out, walking out. When Khamzat walked out, he did seem a little more loose. Seemed good, right? But something switched. I don't know if you guys were paying attention, but Khamzat looked very good walking out to the cage, walking around the cage, sitting on top of the cage next to Darren Till. He looked great, looked confident, looked like Khamzat. But when they started to announce his name and they put the camera angle on him, the front camera angle on him, when they start to announce your name, that's when I saw a difference in his facial expression, and I pay attention to that always. Something switched in his mind. Something happened. He didn't look like Khamzat. People probably are thinking he did look like Khamzat because he came out strong in the first round and whatever. I think they were both flat. Both of them were flat in the first round for the first minute, 2 minutes, easily they were both trying to snap out of that trance they were in. I feel like they were both not fighting like the way they should or can in that first round. Even if Khamzat won that first round, even if he came out strong, it wasn't the same fluidity I saw in the Gerald Merchant fight, in the Li Jiang fight, if I'm saying his name right. In all the other fights he had before against those guys, I don't remember their names, obviously, but in those fights, the fluidity that you see in Khamzat's entry and his striking, I didn't see it as sharp. Like something was off, and I was reading his facial expression right when they were announcing his name, and even his complexion. He seemed a little pale, a little bit too. Like I can see that in him. Honestly, I'm just gonna be real. I commented on Khamzat's post on Instagram because I'm like, somebody has to tell him. I don't know if anybody's gonna tell him, but I'm like, bro, you are hanging out with Darren Till too much, bro. That is a distraction. That guy is on a downward spiral in his career right now. He just lost like 3 out of the last 4 fights. Darren Till lost 3 of his last 4 fights. He was the guy on the rise at one point until Tyron Woodley made him look really bad, right? Until Masvidal knocked him out. So you don't want that energy around you in your camp when the energy you had in your camp originally got you to the point where you are now, undefeated with this nice aura of invincibility. You want to keep that same energy. Don't fix what isn't broken. And I think Darren Till's energy, even if they don't see it that way, I know most people probably, well, I don't think that has anything to do with it. Look, energy is everything, right? Energy is everything. And mental is everything. And I think Darren Till is somewhat of a distraction. They just released their own NFTs before this whole fight. I was going to buy one of Khamzat because if you would have starched, Gilbert today, that NFT would have went through the roof in price. But look, at the end of the day, I think that played a role. Most people won't see that. They'll just be like, well, you're sleeping on Gilbert. You don't think Gilbert's that good. No, I think Gilbert is really good. I just think Khamzat could have beat him more, I would say, dominantly. He could have beat him more dominantly if it was a regular Khamzat. But then again, we never really seen Khamzat in the 3rd round or, past a certain point in this fight. So that's another factor that was a big question mark for everybody. But look, Khamzat did his thing. He at least secured the victory, which is good enough, right? And I think Colby is a good fight for Khamzat based on, I would say, to get back that mojo with striking. But at the same time, maybe not, because Colby has a great gas tank. And I don't know if this is really Khamzat I saw today or just him dealing, that's first big fight, first big event, pay-per-view, all that pressure got to him and he got a little fatigued. Because you can get fatigued mentally before it actually happens physically. So I think maybe that had a role in it. So we don't really know. But if it's the same Khamzat we saw today fighting Colby, if he doesn't knock Colby out, Colby could wear on him. And if we saw Khamzat slow down now in the 2nd, 3rd round, we don't know what that 4th and 5th would look like. But we know Colby can keep up a pace and go 4th and 5th. He's already done it multiple times. And now that I saw this fight, I'm seeing more of an even and maybe leaning more towards Usman now in that matchup if Khamzat looks like that again. And like I said, there's just so many factors. I think Darren Till is a distraction. He needs to get back to the regular energy of his camp. But on another hand, switching over to Gilbert did phenomenal. He did his body what he should have done. He fought the way he should have. He actually, I don't know if you noticed this, Jonathan, too. He got away from throwing those loopy hooks that we knew would play into Khamzat's game plan, and he was throwing straights. And that, I think, was one part of the game plan that really caught Khamzat off guard. That was smart by Gilbert and his camp to do that. So Gilbert definitely did phenomenal, but the jab was Khamzat's main thing that I would say determined the victory. But that's my thoughts on it so far.
You're on mute.
Yeah, my bad. There we go. I agree with you perfectly, man. The straights were much there because, like you said, the looping punches of Gilbert Burns, that's what he's done his whole career, and that's what he's done to knock other people out. But it was very important for him to kind of stay within himself and keep the jab going. And what he did a lot of times is he would kind of lure Khamzat into into himself while he would back up into the cage, and he would just let go. That's when he would let go the looping hook and that overhand right and just let it go. And he was able to get some of those nice shots. Johan, man, what were your thoughts on the fight? Because Gilbert Burns gave us a hell of a performance, and I think we all need to kind of give him a little more respect after this fight.
Well, I kind of said it in our group chat earlier today. I said, are the odds kind of disrespecting Gilbert Burns? Because I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I think Khamzat was the favorite, but I didn't think he was going to be that big of a favorite because Gilbert Burns is the number 2 ranked welterweight in the world. And I'm not gonna get too deep like Bruce did with the whole Darren Till thing, because I do think Darren Till, Darren Till's more of a jokester than he is a fighter right now, currently at this stage of his career. But I'm gonna look at it from a fighting standpoint. This was a huge jumping competition for Khamzat Chimaev. If you think about it, I mean, last fight he fought number 14, the number 14 ranked Zhizhen Liang, and now he's fighting the number 2 ranked Gilbert Burns. And previously he fought Gerald Meerschaert, who was on a losing streak when he fought him, and he fought, I don't even know who the last 2 people he
Reese
fought.
McGee.
Exactly. So I'm like, I don't even know remember the first 2 people he fought, because he fought him back to back. But it was a big jump in competition. So I feel like I kind of had a feeling that we're not going to see the invincible Khamzat Chimaev that we did. But in a sense, I think that was a good thing, because you saw that he could hang with the top 5 in that welterweight division. It doesn't help it completely tears off his invincibility, identity that he had going into this, all the hype, but the hype is still there. It shows that, he can fight, he can go to war, and he can take punishment, which was great. That's one thing that a lot of guys that, have this aura, that we kind of worry about, is like, what happens when they're in a dog fight? Are they still the same invincible fighter they are, or are they the same tough fighter that we think they are? And we didn't really get to see a lot of his striking as well throughout his entire UFC run to this point. And we saw that him and Gilbert, had a stand-up war. I think that there is some holes, honestly. But then again, that also comes with, having a big jump in competition. Also comes with, fighting more than 1 round. And also it comes with, getting hit. We learn these things when you start, taking some punishment. But I think it was impressive because, while he gave Gilbert his best shots, he also took Gilbert's best shots. And I think that's what was impressive about this fight from both men. I think that Gilbert did what Gilbert was supposed to do, and Khamzat showed more from his arsenal than I was expecting. I didn't know that he was that solid in his striking. I mean, he said it, but I didn't think that, because all we knew was he was just dominant, wrestling machine from Dagestan # Sweden. I don't know. He has 2 flags. I don't know which one's his main nationality, but his last name's Chimaev. But overall, I think that I was impressed with the performance. I think that I'm glad I didn't bet money on Gilbert Burns, because I would have lost money, definitely. But it was definitely the people's main event, and it lived up to the hype. And it does make me interested to see what happens with him and Colby Covington, because like Bruce said, Colby Covington is a cardio machine. Best gas tank in that division. Better than Kamaru Usman, better than Gilbert Burns. I don't even have to mention anybody else in that division, because he has the best overall cardio in that division. So I want to see how he can handle, because this was 3 rounds. He's never had a 5-round fight. I want to see how he handles that. I mean, the wrestling exchanges should be, for hardcore fans, top notch. Striking exchanges, maybe questionable. I mean, hopefully they're as exciting as what we saw tonight. But overall, I think that this was an impressive performance, and it showed a little bit more from Khamzat.
I think so as well. I think it was very important that we saw Khamzat get rocked tonight, right? I think it was very important that we see him hit something that's some adversity, fight through something more than just steamrolling through everybody. Because for him to do that and come back and get a win shows that, okay, he can hang with the best of the best. And I think, to both your guys' points, it shows that he's a legitimate contender now, right? If he wasn't able to pass this test, if he wasn't able to withstand the best shot from Gilbert Burns, and we saw even Gilbert Burns wasn't able to take him down when he shots. Granted, Gilbert Burns is a lot smaller, but he wasn't able to take him down. And even with his best shot, even with withstanding whatever Khamzat Chimaev threw at him, he was able to get the win. So, congratulations to Khamzat. I want to give, like Johan was saying, this is the interesting part now, right? Khamzat Chimaev versus Colby Covington. Because Colby Covington, he doesn't necessarily have the power, but he has a good job of setting up those hands using his wrestling, right? And, that's going to be interesting, because is he going to be able to take Khamzat Chimaev down? We don't know. Khamzat Chimaev is a really good wrestler, and he's really fucking big. Like, that's the issue with him, is he's huge for this welterweight division. So, Bruce, I'll give it to you on this one, man. What do you think about the matchup between Khamzat Chimaev and Colby Covington?
Well, like I was saying a little earlier, I think it's gonna come down to, can Colby take, because Colby is another guy who's very susceptible, like Gilbert, to a straight, to a jab. He's very susceptible to that. That's how he got rocked, So can he take Khamzat's punches, right, is what we got to find out in those first couple rounds. And then we got to find out if can Khamzat actually keep that gas going in the fourth and fifth when Colby can. That's what the fight's really going to come down to. Can Colby survive the first 2 rounds? The first 2-round onslaught of Khamzat? Can he? If he can, then we're going to be in a very interesting fight. And you can't really count out someone like Colby when it comes to striking either, because even though they're loopy and he's very awkward with it, he does throw a lot of loopy punches with combinations with head kicks as well that sometimes almost land on guys like Kamaru or Masvidal, right? We've seen it. And some of those punches actually land on Usman. He actually hurt Usman a teeny tiny bit, or at least it appeared to, on their first fight with one of his loopy punches. So you can't count anybody out with these small gloves and a shin to the head, right? So we would have to see if Colby could take his power in the first 2 rounds, and then we have to see if Khamzat can keep the gas. If Khamzat can keep the gas, Colby should be an easy fight for him realistically. But just also to chime into what Johan was saying a little bit about Colby having the best gas tank, it would actually be between him, I think, and Nate Diaz when it comes to gas tanks.
Yeah, man, it's going to be very interesting to see how the gas tank matches up. And Johan, I'll add this little caveat to this. If this is a main event fight, right? This was the first fight for Chimaev that went past, I believe, 6 minutes for him. This was the first 15-minute fight. We saw a little bit of him getting a little tired, with him getting a little bit rocked. We saw a little bit of the holes in the striking as far as shots that can hit him. Do you think if this is a 5-round main event, does that benefit Colby Covington a little bit more?
Yeah, of course. I mean, but then again, we can't. I mean, we're all obviously this is recency bias. We're judging it off this recent performance. This is his first test in the deep waters. He's in the top contenders now. This was his first test. He went from tier 4 to tier 1 in one fight. He knocked over 3 tiers just to get to the top contenders. So it'll be interesting to see how comfortable he is in his next fight, fighting at a high level. But even with that, again, Colby Covington, it does favor him, because one thing that Colby Covington loves to do with his cardio is put pressure and push the pace. And it'll be interesting if he's able to do that against Khamzat. Maybe he might not be able to do it in the first or second round, just because Khamzat can still be fresh. Hopefully, Colby doesn't get dropped, because I mean, what is it, his last three of his 4 fights, he's been dropped. So, and Khamzat is a powerful puncher. That's one thing that he has to worry about. But I do think that one thing that Colby does better than anybody else is just push the pace. We saw it against Jorge Masvidal. He just kept pushing, and he kind of just tired out Jorge by just he kept throwing, he kept stepping forward against him, and Jorge had to keep backing up and keep thinking, and it kind of drained him. And then also it kind of sets up his takedowns easier because he just pushes forward so like smoothly that he closes distance enough for him to just grab a leg and sweep. So it'll be interesting to see because I mean again these are two high level wrestlers that will be fighting, and more likely than not it would be a pay-per-view main event. It cannot be no fight night main event. Like the hype's too big for Khamzat. Colby just did a main event on pay-per-view, non-title. So I mean, I would. It's either that or they fight with International Fight Week. That's it. Like that's what I think it is. It's that or International Fight Week. But it would be an interesting matchup. We'll really see. I can't really assess it until I look at film more. Because like there's gonna be some things I see from both guys from their last fights that I can probably pick apart more. But from like just watching Hamzat today, it seems fairly even. Before if we were talking about this last month, we probably would have said Hamzat would have dominated Kobe. Like we would have said he would have torched him, like manhandled him, like mauled him. And now you saw a little more human side of Hamzat where you saw someone stand and bang with him and kind of not not break his like mystique, but kind of just show that he's a regular UFC fighter like everyone else. But it'll be interesting. I'm pretty excited for the fight.
Yeah, man, I think it's going to be a very fun fight. I think the lead up is going to be absolutely insane. Like I really do think like this is going to be one of the most fun press conferences, or if they do a press conference or just pre-fight or whatever they do, it's going to be absolutely insane. It's going to be very, very fun. Let's get into a couple of these other fights. Let's close it out here before we get in, before we close this out. Mackenzie Dern defeating Tisha Torres via split decision. Johan, what were your thoughts on the split decision? Do you think Mackenzie Dern actually got it done, or do you think Tisha Torres was able to edge us out?
It was pretty close. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was pretty close. That split decision was. It could have went either way. I think Tisha Torres looked like she was tough. Like I can tell you, she was a tough person, and she started to pick it up towards the end of the fight, especially with her spinning kicks. She kept landing those. She landed those pretty accurately on Mackenzie Dern for the last for the third round. Like she started to become more accurate on the feet. But I think what stood out to me most, and this is probably what kind of one favored me for Dern, is that second round when she was like when she was just attempting submission after submission, and she was like constantly just trying to work for different submissions. That's one thing, and two, I also think that she had a stronger first round. I think so. That first round could have went either way, but I think Mackenzie Dern's confidence and kind of how she how she was able to land and kind of move away at ease with Tisha Torres strikes kind of grabbed my attention to her more than Torres in that first round. And I think that was a little more impressive. But overall, it was a pretty good fight. It could have went either way. I wouldn't have been mad with either decision. I'm glad that Mackenzie Dern won though.
Yeah, I'm happy about it too because that means I got my pick right. I was 4-1 for my previews. Made it a little bit better for me. But man, I think it was a great fight for Mackenzie Dern. But it just showed a little bit to me that she still has a little ways to go before she's gonna be able to fight the elite of the elite because she's really not strong on the wrestling aspect. She's able to, man, if she gets a hold of you, even if she pulls guard, she's super dangerous. But as far as the wrestling and takedown ability, she's just not quite there yet. And the striking just isn't there, right? She's not able to kind of put two and two together. Sometimes she'll land a looping punch and get one there. But at that division, you don't have the power to land with one. You're not able to knock somebody out with one punch, and you're going to need to land in combination. So she needs to work a little bit better there for me, in my opinion. Bruce, what were your thoughts on this? And did you think Mackenzie Dern got the win?
I think Mackenzie Dern definitely got the win. I think there were maybe one round that was questionable. Definitely second round was the most dominant round, and it was in Mackenzie Dern's favor. Look, for me, it was simple. Tisha Torres is just too small, and when she goes against the top of the top, in that division, She falls short. She hangs in almost every fight I've seen her, with the next, girl who works her way up in that division. She loses to them usually by decision, but she always shows a lot of heart, tenacity, and some great athleticism. But it just seems like it's not enough because these girls are just too big for her. She's the tiny tornado. She really is tiny, and but super athletic. And I just feel like Mackenzie Dern showed us that she's on her way to the top. She's gonna just need some more work. They're gonna have to put her against the right people, give her some good matchups, so she can keep really working her way up there. Because right now, her striking isn't at the level of like the elite top individuals. But to her credit and to her coach's credit, her striking has gotten a lot better. It actually has. It's gotten a little bit cleaner. That minus the first round, she was a little sloppy, a little bit too rushing in, but still overall, the progression that I see in her striking abilities from the last fights, I mean, it's amazing progress. So she's definitely on the right track. And like you said, I totally agree. She needs to get better at her takedowns, her wrestling, her entries, her single leg, her double leg. She needs to get better at that because if not, she's not going to be able to show her strength. You know what I mean? She's not going to be able to show her strength, which is her jiu-jitsu. So for me, I think it was a good decision. I can't argue with that. It's not like something worth arguing with. I think Mackenzie Dern should have won this fight, and she did. I just think from here, put her against someone next in the ranking. Don't climb her too high, too fast. And I think for Tisha, we just need to hope they open up a lower weight class, or she's just going to continue to be a good gatekeeper.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's kind of what's going to be resorted to as what she's going to be for now. Good fight for Marco Madsen over Vince Pichel. Not really going to talk too much about that one just because it was a little bit boring. We did see Ian Gary pick up a decision victory. I think this was some good experience for Ian Gary to pick up the win. He is now 9-0. Calling himself the next Conor McGregor, I don't really see it to be there. Not really doesn't really have the knockout power just quite yet as far as what we saw in the UFC. In this fight against a little bit better competition, and it's tough to kind of see that he's going to have that charisma. Not quite there on that level yet, but let's play one of our favorite games here. Let's play Guess the Bonus. We had 3 performance bonuses tonight, 1 being a fight of the night, 2 being performances bonuses. And I'll let you guys guess. Johan, you were a little bit later on the show, so I'll let you guess first, man. Give me your 2 bonuses, or give me the 3 bonuses that you saw tonight. 2 performance bonuses and 1 fight of the night.
All right, so fight of the night, Khamzat and Gilbert Burns. If it's not, I don't know fighting. I don't know fighting at all. I'm going to go to football if that's not the fight of the night. If it isn't, hold me to that. So performance of the night. There's 2. You said there's 2 performance of the nights?
Correct.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I gotta think about this. All right. So I'm gonna go. First one is Alexander Volkanovski because I think he just put on a masterclass performance. I think it was just so impressive. And it was like such a technical masterpiece. It was like art that I was watching. Like it was just like wow. Like so this is what a technical fighter looks like. That's kind of what it looked like in my eyes. I was like, wow, this is what counterpunching looks like. Wow, this is what throwing combinations look like. Wow, this is what elite footwork looks like. So that's one. That's my first guy. And I'm trying to think who else was. Dang, I'm trying to think. Oh man, that one is kind of tough because I don't know the main card. Most of them went to the decision. So I'm like, is someone in the undercard? So you can't give me a hint, right?
Nah.
Fuck. Okay. All right, I'm gonna go left field. I'll go Oleski Oleinik. He had that impressive submission. It was earlier in the night. He's 40 years old. Give the old man some money.
Give the old man some money. Bruce, what were your thoughts, man? What were your guesses for the bonuses?
I like those picks. It's hard to go against them, to be honest. fight of the night has to be Khamzat and Gilbert. There's no way it can't be that. And then performance of the night, yeah, I gotta agree. Alexander, he's proving that he means what he says, that he wants to climb the pound-for-pound rankings. He wants the GOAT status. He's fighting like a champion that actually wants that status. Most champions become champions, and then they don't have another goal anymore. Like, they already accomplished it. And then you see those champions always, they defend the belt maybe once or twice or not even, and they lose it, and it switches hands back and forth. But the champions that make huge goals are the ones that end up getting those multiple defenses. And that's kind of where Volkanovski's at right now. So, look, for me, that was definitely performance of the night, massive performance. And it was another performance of the night, you said, right? So he went with Alexander, with Olenek. I would agree with that, but I'm gonna just pick someone else because that one is tough, and I totally understand you on. They give it to people in the prelims too, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna give it to Ian Gary, and this is why. Because, and I don't think he really got it, but this is the only reason why I'm giving it to him. Is because people are like, maybe not realizing he actually fought a tough guy today in Weeks. Like, Weeks is a tough guy. He could hit hard. He has a hard head. He could take a punch. So I really didn't think. I really thought maybe he'll land a head kick because Weeks is kind of slow. He didn't get that. So, but he fought smart and he fought well and took the victory fair and square. So that's my pick.
So the fight of the night, you're actually both wrong. It was Raquel Pennington versus Aspen Ladd.
Hey, dead ass?
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my God!
I didn't want to start football. I didn't want to start a football channel. Don't do that.
No, fight of the night was you're correct. Both were correct. It was Gilbert Burns versus Khamzat Chimaev. Alexander Volkanovski with the Performance of the Night award with the TKO victory. And Johan, you got it correct. It was Alexei Olenek with the scarf hold. Bruce, you should have went right there with it.
Oh, that shit was hard. That shit was hard.
I didn't want to disagree with everything that he already said, but that would have been the only other one I can think of. He's freaking 45 or something like that years old. Come on.
44 years old, getting his 60th victory.
I couldn't think of anything because that finish was like so early into the card that like I forgot about it. So like, fuck, I don't know.
No, that was a great call, man. Great call and great night overall. Like you said, we saw some really good victories. Khamzat Chimaev, the hype is still kind of real, or still is real, right? He's still good. He's still able up there. I think he's going to be able to use this fight to grow a lot. Aljamain Sterling proving all the doubters wrong. Alexander Volkanovski just continuing to show his dominance as a champion. And we saw a lot of great fights tonight, man. Thank you, Johan, for joining us. Thank you, Bruce, for joining me. Shout out to everybody in the comments. If you're not already subscribed to the Combat Center, the new channel for the Five Region Sports and all of our combat sports entertainment, make sure you subscribe to Combat Center. Make sure you like the video as well. And thank you guys for checking out this video today. Until next time, we'll see you guys after the fight.